Ready on the west?
Ready on the west.
Get going in 3, 2, 1.
All right, Patriots, welcome back to Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Farmer Ryan Early. Today, I've got a special guest, House Representative J.J. Humphreys. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Humphreys.
Ryan, I'm sure proud to be on here. Always like to get a chance to talk to people who are patriots.
Well, we sure like having guests on that are actively making changes in their communities. I would love if you could give our viewers just a little background about how you got into politics and where you
Sure.
where your future's headed, sir.
Well, I was always pretty ornery and ended up uh, not making great grades in college and drinking a little bit too much, and ended up finally went to work on a high line and got to run a shovel for a year. And I decided I could do better than that, and went back and started in college, made absolutely good grades, ended up becoming a criminal justice graduate in criminal justice, bachelor degree. Went to work in prison, worked there about a year and a half, and then went into probation pro. Was there for about 20 something years. Started my own company doing administration for drug court and private probation and private drug testing, and had a lot of problems with the DA over DA supervision. Got an ongoing, probably 4-year battle over that. And we would pass laws and they would ignore those laws, and they would ignore the appellate court decisions and things like that. And so I just ran for state legislator and got lucky and won, or a lot of hard work and won. And so I've been there about 7 years. Criminal justice is my main focus, but I lived in a community for a long time and just was not aware how much poverty we had in southeastern Oklahoma. So trying to build up, trying to get more internet, broadband, more business, bring people in, more money in our area, better education for our area, working on that, as well as the criminal justice issues. And the thing that I probably as well known for is speaking out against just the craziness that we're seeing in our colleges, in our common ed schools, the transgender issues, the what I like to call the alphabet mafia, the LGBTQT, whatever it is, plus stands for pedophilia, minor attracted person. If you ever thought that we'd ever get to that area, that we would hear that openly, that people are pushing for pedophilia to be legal. It blows my mind, but that's kind of one of the biggest things I'm really outspoken on, is those agendas, and pretty well known for speaking my mind.
Yes, sir. Well, first off, thank you for your service and all you've done.
Absolutely.
I
Proud
know
to do it.
I know you have a bill that you are currently working on that would limit some of the LGBTQ plus um, integration into our school systems, etc. Would you mind just giving us a brief insight into that, sir?
Well, we've got several things we're working on. So one, I've got trying to get on right now on the agenda of the state school board to discuss animal control. I'm laughing. I'm going to go in there and talk about furries. And if anybody doesn't know what furries are children or students who believe that they are an animal, a mystic animal, two-legged animal. Some of them even walk on fours, and so we've got this going on at our schools that teachers are actually putting in litter boxes for kids who think they're cats. My thing is if you got a cat in your room, you call the pound, you call the animal control. We've got to talk about neutering. We got to talk about rabies and all that kind of stuff if we're going to have cats. So I'm going to go on the school board and say, hey, it's time to shut this nonsense down. And then we also have that we put out a resolution for to end funding for every college that teaches what they call DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for listeners, a lot of them probably already know this, but diversity sounds great, but we all would like to see diversity, and I'm very open to diversity. But again, that's not what they're teaching. They're teaching division, not diversity. And they're teaching hate, and they're teaching racism. And that's what that class is all about. It's not about equality. It's not about gender equality or racial equality. I think we're all very open to those ideals. I think those are ideals that we all share, and equity, inclusion, and all of these things that they're saying they're pushing. And inclusion is inclusion for everything. And again, we talked about pedophilia a while ago. Hey, I'm going to tell you, I don't apologize to nobody. If you're talking about including pedophilia, then I want to arrest you, and I want to arrest anybody who's trying to push that agenda, because it's illegal. And so we've got a resolution out to say defund them. I have caught, a massive amount of heat. There's two other senators that have been on that, Rob Standridge, and I think Nathan Dahm was the other senator that was on that. I know that's the two that were on that, and they've caught a lot of havoc as well. So anytime you step up, and again, that's where we are, whether we're talking about the problems that we see with the FBI, if we're talking about the problems we see in DOJ, the CIA on federal levels, or we're talking the problems across the nation with our schools that have sold out to Marxist and socialist ideals, division, all of these things. The way to control them is through the purse. And again, most of your legislators don't have the, whether you want to call it backbone or political fortitude to pull that purse string. And again, if we start pulling the purse string, you start pulling that on OU and OSU, and you watch, they'll change tunes real quick.
No, I agree. Do you think that do you feel that the recent Supreme Court ruling that shook the LGBTQ community will have some outreaching effects to help further the legislation that will prevent that from going on in our schools here?
Here's where I'm at. What I think is that we're at a crossroads, and are the American people, and here's what I believe. When you see Bud Light, Budweiser about to lose their business because of one commercial, you don't have to wonder where a majority of the American public is, or at least the public that bought that product.
The consumer-based product, yes.
Yeah, the consumer, and that's us, the people. That's the government, we the people. And we the people has spoke to Budweiser. I don't think they're listening. They went on with some of that same activity, but I think they'll go out of business. I don't think they'll recover. Target has seen the same thing. Kohl's has seen the same thing. We saw Dodger Stadium when they pulled the shenanigan with the LGBT people who dress up like priests and who mock the Catholic Church. When you saw that, you saw those stadiums empty out, or that stadium empty out. I think people are speaking, and I think the majority of people have the same moral compass, same moral principles as most of us in America. And the question is, will they stand up and have their voice heard? Because I can tell you, when 30,000 teachers walked on the yard there at the Capitol, it made a huge difference. And if 30,000 people would step up and say, we're sick of y'all not passing these bills. We're sick of you letting the schools do what they want. We're sick of you not getting your election stuff straight. All over America, if that would happen, I'll tell you right now, we'd see a different America. And the only reason that this nonsense keeps going on is because we, the people, have sat back on our asses and let it happen. And it's time that we get up and be heard. And again, how do you do that? I go to local, I go out and campaign locally all the time. If you have when I was younger, I spoke for statewide campaigns. You would go about any town, have a political event, you'd have 200 or 300 people there, big crowds. You go to have one right now, you're lucky if you get 20, 40 people show up, and it'll be the same 20 or 40 every time you're having something. And again, that's the problem. When we ignore it and we let it go, and we come to this place, well, there ain't never going to be anything done. Well, as long as we sit back. But, that's just like what we're doing here today on the 4th of July. We're taking our time out to discuss what's going on, to try to inform people what's happening. And again, you want to talk about a great need. If people are only watching CNN, if they're only watching CBS, one of these networks, hey, there's no way that they have a clue what's going on the border. There's no way of what they have knowing how many things that Bidens have been charged with, or unfortunately not charged, but how much evidence, overwhelming evidence. And that's the problem. Here's our former President Trump, the front runner candidate for the Republican race. And again, he had 5 years to look at that information that he can declassify. And they have these discussions, what can be and what. He hadn't passed that 5 year. He didn't do anything illegal. And they've got him charged under some bogus law that will not apply when they get down to the road. Here we have Joe Biden carrying out documents that are top secret, carried them out of a skib, top secret place you can't carry anything out of, has no way to have an excuse to have those documents. And guess what? We haven't seen one charge. Has document after document after document in unsecured places, not a charge. He's vice president. He didn't have the right to have all that. So we're seeing that kind of, the abuse of the court system. And Ryan, I'll just tell you that for me, several years ago, I was just getting so, I'd sit in front of the TV, be hollering at, yelling at something come on, and I'd just be going out of my mind, hollering. And I finally come to a place where I realized, I believe God puts you in your lane and places you where you're at. Not to mean you can't move here or move there, but I wasn't placed in Washington, D.C. I was placed in Oklahoma, and I was placed up there at the state capitol. And I decided, you know what? I'm going to start looking in my own backyard. Old Bible says, but before you go pull the splinter out of the other guy's eye, pull the log out of your own, And so I just started saying, hey, let's look at our own backyard and let's start cleaning it up for me. And guess what, Ryan? I have found so much wrong in our judicial system, in our court system. It's just mind-boggling. Got involved with a death penalty case. And I want to say I'm a strong supporter of the death penalty. I support the death penalty 100%. But I support it when we're right and when we have a right process. And so I got involved in this guy's case. I really didn't want to get involved. And because of a friend, I said I'd look at it. And the more I looked at it, the more just unbelievable I would find stuff of how this guy could get convicted. And so me and a guy named Kevin McDougal, another representative. We got busy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
I know Kevin. Yes, sir. Great guy.
Super, super great guy. Anyways, we got busy on this case, got a group of lawyers to agree to look into it. And we found that the DA destroyed 10 key pieces of evidence. Didn't just find that, we've got the investigators signed an affidavit saying he was purposely instructed to destroy evidence to send this guy to the chair. We have a document that the DA sent over to the only witness they really have, who is a guy who admitted to killing the person, and he's testifying to say this guy put him up to it so that he can avoid the death penalty. That's their only witness, which is compromised witness big time. But they send him over a letter and say, hey, your testimony don't line up with the medical examiner's testimony, and it would be nice if you would change your testimony, and here's what we'd like you to say. Well, one, that's perjury. He had already sworn to the testimony before, so it's perjury. Two, it's supporting perjury. Three, it's intimidation of a witness. If you can take that guy's life and you're telling him change his testimony, he's probably pretty intimidated. And a felony of witness tampering. It's a felony, and intimidating is also a felony. So these are felonies that the DA is committing to change a person's sentence, to get this person sentenced to a death penalty. This guy has been, like, to the last 30 days, 9 or 11 times. He's been the last meal served, I believe, 3 times, and he's been on the gurney twice. And then after we present this to our new AG, he says, well, I don't want to have y'all's investigator. I want to hire my own investigator. And so he hired his own investigator, a guy named Rex Duncan, really good guy. And Rex finds that these attorney generals and DAs have been setting on evidence that is required by law to give to the defense, and they've not given it. And so we expose all of this. Unbelievable. Who would even believe that we would have a judicial system that would do that, to set a guy up to kill him just so they can have a better record, you know? And then our appellate court upholds it. Even after we find all of this, the appellate court upholds it and the pro board upholds it. And you want to talk about corrupt, we've got a job to do.
Yes, sir.
And that's here in Oklahoma. That ain't in Washington, D.C.
No, that's right here at home. We're going to take a quick break, JJ, and we'll come back, and I'd like to talk more about what's going on here at home. I think there's some other topics that you've got some good insight on, sir. We'll be right back. All right, Patriots, welcome back. We are here with Oklahoma State Representative JJ Humphreys, and we were just discussing some pretty good topics: local change in legislation and corruption. And I think that's something that doesn't get addressed near enough. Is corruption at a local level, right? Oh,
it's unbelievable when you get up there and you start seeing firsthand, whether we're talking court system, whether we're talking DHS cases. On any of these I could talk. I'm working on right now. We've never had, to my knowledge, a hearing. I went studying the other day and found out, and actually Nathan Dom helped me with this, that we as chairman actually have some subpoena things. You don't see it. You don't see us having hearings. I don't know of any since I've been there where the committee chair actually, now they've set up a couple that was just smoke and beer shows, but we're actually going to have a hearing on how they violated whistleblower and how that person turned over rapes that I believe have been covered up in the Department of Corrections, multiple rapes. And so we're going to try to get to the bottom of those, as well as some financial things in those that get exposed that we were able to find We were able last year to get a $43 million raise for the DOC employees without one dime new taxes, without one dime new appropriations, by going back and looking at how many employees they should have, how many employees they're reporting. So I'll give you an example. Correctional officers were reporting about 1,700 and they were 900 and something, 940 short. Well, if you go just the minimum pay package, it's 55,400. It'll even be greater than that right now, but at that time, 55,400. So if you multiply 55,400 by 940, it's going to come up there in the $50 million range. And then if you looked at how many nurses they were short, you looked at how many probation officers they were short, we're talking in the $60 million range. Where's this money going? And it's not made up money, because we retrieved 43 million of it last year to get this raise, and that's an ongoing raise. So it's not made up money, but that's a heck of a lot of money. So where's that money? I had to go back 3 years to find it. Right. And so what happened in them other 2 years? That's a lot of money just to kind of blow off. And that's what we see our government going, oh, well, JJ, you found it. You did a good job. No, where's the other money? And where's the money going moving forward this year? Because they started doing the same thing. It's not brain surgery. Even a moron like myself can find it. So again, but nobody's interested in holding anybody's feet to the fire on that and saying, and it's not just about the money, it is about the money, but what could we be doing with that money? Could we start new technology programs? Could we change prisons to actually train people, put them back to work, put them back in the community and demand that they work, or create a system where if you're not going to do that and you're going to continue to violate the law, we bring you right back and put you in a penitentiary pretty quick. So again, we help people, but we want to hold them accountable.
Yes, sir. And I think, even Oklahoma, while we're an ag-centric state, we don't have near enough ag programs for new technology developments. As a manufacturer here in this state of green, ecologically friendly pesticides, our Blue Magic, I have tried to get all the assistance, any assistance that I can get from the USDA, from the Department of Agriculture, and it's almost non-existent if you're not an oil and gas technology. And so,
well, or if you're Farm Bureau, if you're cattlemen's, you can get it. But sure. Now, if you're an independent like yourself, even if you're with a larger group, unless you are a big financial player in the system, and again, when you begin to look at things like the meat processing, how we process beef, how we sell beef, how we import beef, USDA inspections, guess what? It's a sham. I mean, it is a sham. When you put it on a federal level, it'll really blow your mind and make you mad. But when you look at that, we're talking about a $3 billion industry, and that I think the feds give us somewhere about 1.3 million last time I looked, and we're going to let 1.3 million control what we do with the $3 billion industry. And again, we should be setting up to where we can sell beef directly, and we're doing a better job of that because several of us have worked and we've made some big players mad. I don't really care because I'm for what's going to be good for the people of the state of Oklahoma. That's who I got elected by, and that's who I'm going to represent. But again, when you were saying a while ago, pesticides that are chemical-free pesticides, man, I'm not a tree hugger, but I've had bone cancer. I'm diagnosed with bone cancer. And again, I've quit spraying chemicals because, of the effect that might have on me. And when I hear something like that, man, I would love to see more funding. I'd like to be able to spray my pastures and knock the briars and knock the weeds down with something that not only I'm not afraid for me, but again, I don't want it affecting my neighbors. I don't want it affecting my kids. I don't want it affect my neighbors' kids. And so again, there's stuff out there that we could be, moving towards that. and all you hear is just energy, energy, energy. And much of the stuff that we see on energy really doesn't work. And the things that we see, I had a project for a hydro energy dam that would have not affected any rivers. Two lakes, build two lakes, would have looked very pretty. We can put it on in the dead of winter time, constantly, doesn't kill anything. Green, green. It's green in energy. It's green in money. It's green all the way around. And yet couldn't, you know what I'm saying? Wrong people involved. You didn't have the big players behind it. And again, we lost out. Cost our area about $1.5 billion. So
Yes, sir. I'm sad to hear that, and I hope that gets resurrected. I will do everything in my power to help on that project. I love that.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about stuff like that we're talking about. And again, people tend to not look at the agricultural business is a huge part of Oklahoma. And when I'm saying 3 billion, that's just on what we've seen on cattle. Again, we've seen our poultry industry demolished. It's been taken over by corporate. We've seen our hog industry, pork industry, same thing. And if you looked at the trajectory, I'm not an economics. In fact, I didn't do well in economics. I passed, but that was a harder class for me. But you don't have to be an economics expert to look at the trajectory and the sales and all of that thing on poultry. And then you take and put pork up, and guess what? It's identical. The crash is identical. I mean, it's the same economic scale. And when you put beef up there, guess what? We're not down here where the crash happened. But if you come up here, we're on the same trajectory. We're on the same scale. And we better wake up, because again, right now, I'm not a military person, but when you see your military being destroyed by wokeism, when you see that your country is being invaded by we don't know who,
by the millions, by
billions, and we don't know who, they're invading. We're being invaded. When you see your supply line being cut, in military terms, that's kind of a spooky thing. You know what I'm saying? So you're seeing your military weakened, you're seeing your country invaded, you're seeing your supply lines cut, and then China is sending over fentanyl and other drugs. It ain't just fentanyl, other drugs, massive amounts that we're seeing. I think last year we had 100,000 people nationwide killed. It was over 1,000 here in Oklahoma, if I remember correctly. And, if you want to go back and pull Vietnam, I believe there was somewhere around 58, 56. Don't hold me to that. Korea, 30, 36, 38, something like that. 1,000 people killed in those wars. And you lost 100,000 of people between the 19 age and 48, something like that. Prime is what you call it. Prime age. You lose those people to a drug that China is sending over, and you tell me we're not at war. I disagree. We are at war and we're losing. And it's scary to me that people do not wake up and to these facts of the stuff that we're talking about.
Well, and I'll add to that. I had political operative Roger Stone on here recently.
Yeah.
And Roger was brought up a very good topic that I am pretty aware of, and that is that the Chinese have actually now owned through national citizens that are here that are purchasing farmland, over 300,000 acres just here in Oklahoma alone, and I can only imagine what that number is on a federal standpoint. And I know that. Former Senator Jake Merrick is pushing to raise awareness on just that issue here and write legislation, work with legislators to create a bill that would ultimately stop that and take those lands back from those illegal operatives of the CCP. We're not allowed to own land over there or entities over there, and they shouldn't be allowed to come over here and do it to us.
Well, there's a federal law that says they can't own land in about 6 to 7 states that are kind of heartland states. And so the federal law's got it right there, but you don't see people enforcing that. Me and a senator named David Bullard, really good guy.
Yes, sir.
We had a bill this year, and what that does is it stops. You have to now, when you purchase land, you have to sign an affidavit saying you are not connected, you're not affiliated with any foreign government, and so you have to sign that. And if that's not in there, the sale can't go through. Or if you are affiliated and you lie, you can be charged. It's a good first step, Ryan. It's a start to recognize the problem. But here's the problem. You kind of alluded to that in what you were saying. You have these people who are fronts. So let's say that you purchase land and your money comes from a law firm in Tulsa. It's who's backing you in your money. And then they work with a law firm in Arizona who works with the corporation in New York, who works for a corporation in Switzerland, who does business with the bank in Mexico, which is owned by China. And the thing about it is I'm an old investigator from way back. I got 30 something years experience in law enforcement, and you don't need a guy like me anymore. You need somebody who can get on these computers and track 600 to 700 different transactions and tie them together and tie over here. Because when you start tying all this together, it won't be 600 or 700 companies. It'll be the same 10 or 12, however, they may have 20 or so, but it will be the same ones. When you get to the top of who's actually running these things, it's not going to be that diverse. It's going to be the same groups of people running these things. And so there are massive millions out there to destroy our country, to take our lands and to destroy our way of life. That's being pumped into our colleges. That's being purchasing our farmlands. That's being pumped into our elections. One of the biggest things that it's just frustrated me being up there is to see our own party tied in with all of this money, because when you see the George Soros money, these other funds that come in, you like to think, oh, that's the Democrats over there. That's the Democrats doing this, and they're treasonous and traitors and selling our country out. Well, guess what? Not so. You see that money coming into the Republican Party here in Oklahoma, astronomical. Go look at some of these funds and go try to track where they come from. I've tried to track. We've seen misuse on them big time. We saw a lawsuit. When I first got up there, I was in a group called the Patriot Group. We got targeted, and our own party come out after a bunch of us. Now, they came to me and said, hey, we're not going after you. I was like, I'm always glad people ain't going after me, But they took out somewhere around 14, 15 of those people in that group, super conservative people. And our own party raised huge money to take them out. And again, there was about 4 of us they didn't. One they tried, and he won by 5 votes. So they tried one, but they took down another 14 or 15. So Ethics just filed a lawsuit on that and actually won to prove that it was our group. And one of the guys is involved with it. Well, they were a cancer they needed cut out. Well, if you're conservative, you're a cancer. The best conservative group up there, and they call them a cancer. What's that saying about them, And so again, when your own party cannibalizes you with this type of money, and they're willing to take it, hey, you don't take money and it don't have ties to it, I'll promise you. And so that's the kind of money coming in. Like think it's only Democrat. No, it's the Republican Party. I'd encourage you to go look at some of these big funds. Go look at what went the funds that went against Joshua King and some other people here in Oklahoma. Start trying to track the source of these funds. that shouldn't be, Ryan. We ought to be able to see who is supplying the money and where's this money coming from. And I'll guarantee you, when you start trying to track it, it's unbelievable where the dark money is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that is lacking, and probably always has lacked in politics is transparency, right? Um, you know, I've said it for a long time: follow the money, and you'll find who's behind it.
Oh, 90% of your problem, absolutely.
And most people get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps, 6 steps, 7 steps in, and say, okay, this is far enough. I'm not going to continue. Like you said, it can get very deep, and even the money coming in on conservative campaigns can be pretty dark. So,
Well, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at digging, and I can tell you this: I can dig to so far. I mean, I can dig and say it's the same group, same treasurer. I can kind of track to where that possible treasurer comes from. Maybe at one time I thought they didn't even exist. I thought they were made up. I now think that they are a real group. But again, I can tell you, you get so far. And unless you have some better resources than I have, you run into a brick wall. Where's it from? And so again, you can see it. You just mentioned a really good guy, and go look in Jake's campaign. How much money was spent against him? Where did this come from? Why was he targeted? And again, I will tell you, he's targeted just because his stance on schools and other stance on just certain issues. And he is a person that's an independent person, an independent thinker, and is going to stand up and be somebody that's right. That's who you want up there. Jake is the type of guy you want up there, but guess what? There were powers to be, and a bunch of those powers to be were in our own Republican Party that decided Jake just was too much of an independent thinker and wanted to take him out. And again, that's the aggravating part with me. If you stand up, if you are accounted for, and you go against certain groups, guess what? You're going to have huge money. And again, when we're talking to patriots, one of the things we have to begin to talk about as patriots, how do we raise money to compete against these people to keep people like elected? We need grassroots. And one of the things that I'm really advocating right now, I'd rather get $10 from every person in District 19. If every person in District 19 would donate $10, I wouldn't even need, you know what I'm saying? And that's what we want. We the people controlling our government. And we have to start trying to compete against this huge money. And again, individually, it's hard. Individually, we don't have that kind of resource. But united together, I represent roughly 39,040 people. If each one of them gave $1 to $10, whatever they could afford,
huge.
Guess
difference.
what? Oh, it's all the difference in the world. I'm sitting like hey, I don't need to talk to them. Which you can go look at my account. I ain't doing good talking to them, but they are against me. You go into I laughed. Got invited to an ag deal like we were talking about, where a bunch of these ag companies were donating money. And I went down there just because people aren't going to say that, hey, Humphrey doesn't try to work with everybody, or he's, I may speak my mind, but I try to get along with everybody.
Right.
And I went down there. But when I went down there, I took this envelope, and there's a guy that was going to stay a while. And I told him, I said, hey, can you just get this envelope right here? And if I get donated anything, would you put that in there? And I'll write them a thank you, or I'll call them and tell them thank you later. Now, you look at me, and you would think I'm going to be an ag guy all the way. I mean, I've been raised on the ranch. I've ranched all my life, continue to ranch. I've been around farmers. I've messed with hogs and all kinds of stuff. You would think I would be the guy. And I was on the ag committee for quite some time. Made some wrong moves, I guess. I got booted off that one and never even told. But here's the thing. Didn't get one dime. And that's what I told him. I said, you're going to come back with an empty envelope. Why? Because you don't dance to their tune. You don't sing their song. You get up, you stand up, you tell the truth. You tell about how Farm Bureau has tried to this year pass a law that allows illegals to have driver's license, and they were the main factor behind that. You talk about how they're against you on everything, whether it be water, whether it be beef, whatever the issue.
All right, Patriots, welcome back. We're here with State Representative J.J. Humphreys. And J.J., you are in District
19.
19.
Yep.
District
Got
19.
most of Push County. Well, I've got all of Push County, all of Choctaw County, most of Bryan County, and a little bit of Atoka County.
So you cover a pretty good area compared to, like here in the city, they got it cut up into freaking smaller sections, right?
Yeah, I've got, if you were to go from about Tallahassee, I stop 5 miles outside of Tallahassee, I think, and I go all the way to the Red River on 69, which is past Colbert. So I go all the way, and then I have that river all the way, pretty much most of the district. Go 5 miles from Valiant, go over, not quite to Broken Bow, stop a little bit outside of Broken Bow. But yeah, I've got a large area. It's a good hour and a half, 2 hour drive from one side to the other.
Well, that is pretty commendable. You got a lot of cover. And what is your constituent number in that district?
Roughly about 39 to 40, I think, is what we're still holding to. And again, what's funny, if you looked at, I have a big part of Bryan County, but if you looked at Durant, Clara, and just a little ways over at Kingston area, that little area right there has the same amount of people living in it as all of the area I cover. So I have a really remote area, and I've got, I think roughly it's like 14 in Bryan and 14 or so in Choctaw, and then I've got another 12 or so in Push, I think, and then some over here. I don't know exactly all the numbers, but it's pretty close to that.
Gotcha. So yeah, you got a lot of ground to cover to get out there and get in front of people. That's commendable.
I laughed. I was at an event, parade on Saturday, and that parade started at 10:30 over in Clayton. Of course, it's an hour trip over there from where I'm at, a little bit better hour if you're dragging stuff. And anyways, got done with that and had to be in Hugo. And after got through with the event called the Redneck Games, Rodeo Games in Hugo, we went to a town called Soper, which had a big event, homecoming. Got out of there and went to the old street dance there in Bennington, and then ended up at a fireworks in a little community called Wade. And nice. By the time I got home, 11, so we left at 9 and got home at 11 something o'clock. So yeah, it's a lot of coverage.
Yes, sir. And so you are running for re-election this year or this cycle.
Yep.
Do you have a website?
What's that?
Do you have a website, or is there?
I've never put up a website. I'm going to put one up to see if I can get donations from local, like I say, that's one of the big moves that I've never tried to raise funds. Last 2 times I didn't draw an opponent. I try to work really hard, like in the off season right here. You don't see a whole lot of people going to 5, 6 events, going from daylight till dark, getting on as much as I do. So I try to campaign 24/7 and keep from having to draw an opponent, but I may draw an opponent, but I've got to get a website. Technology is where I'm a little lacking.
Well, I will get with my team after, and we'll see if we can't help you out in that department, sir.
That'd be awesome. I would like to build a web page and have our stuff on there. I've got a Facebook page. It's just under Justin Humphrey, and so anybody that wants to jump on that can jump on that. But I would like to build a web page and actually set up a donation so that I could see if it would be possible to grassroots what we're talking about. The $1 or $2 donation or $10 is what I'm after. Yes. I would like to see people get involved that way.
I would much rather see individuals keep their money local and make sure that their leaders locally have their same views and political intentions versus sending Trump or Biden a check, right? They got plenty of money.
Yeah, I don't have a problem sending Trump money if you know it's going to Trump. But that's the problem when you're sending it to the Republican Party, and y'all may want to kick me off here. I probably wouldn't send a dime to the Republican Party right now, just to be honest with you. Now, if there are individuals that are patriots, like we talked about, Lake out there in Arizona, I'd had no problem shooting her some money. I'd had no problem shooting Donald Trump some money if I know it goes to actually his. But that's what I'm saying. Where is the money going? How do you know it gets to the right destination? But here in Oklahoma, man, we need to get involved with we need to take back the Capitol building, because I will guarantee you big money controls our Capitol building up there. And what ought to be controlling it is the people of Oklahoma. And that's how we take that back, is we start having the people answer. The politicians need to answer to the people. And the people have been quiet and not made them answer to them. We need to answer to them. I need to answer. I represent District 19, and that's who I need to answer to. And if I vote something, I ought to be voting what that district, and that's a little hard sometimes because our district, you take these tribal compact issues, 40% of the district I represent are tribe. And so you almost saying half is tribal. And so again, and we look at issues like on this cigarette, you hear one side, but what you don't hear is, hey, the only money that we pull across the Red River is on these tobacco. Some of that money goes to Oklahoma, but if we can bring those people over across the river and they'll come over here and spend their money, that's a good thing. And so again, when you hear all that, you don't hear both sides of the story. And so again, I need to hear from people of our district. I don't need to be told how to vote in Oklahoma City. And if you don't vote the way that they want you to, you get kicked off, or you end up with not so great assignments. You don't end up in leadership. All the things that I don't get put in leadership. A lot of my bills get sent to be killed. I have to work and get really creative how to get them out. And again, we need to take back. We need to have the people controlling the Capitol building, and that's what it's going to take. Each state, patriots from each state, stepping up, get their capital back, get their state back, and then we won't lose the nation. Then we will control the elections. We don't have to worry about the elections. We will control the COVID vaccines and all of the things that we saw abused during, over a pandemic. I don't know if y'all watched the stuff too much, but if you're paying attention here lately, I was watching some things on the vaccines, and the Amish, they went in there and tried to find who had died in the Amish community, and to my knowledge, Sam Gideon, I think was the guy's name. That's the only guy that they could say in the Amish that had died, and COVID, and they weren't even sure he had died from COVID. That's what they had listed it in the hospital. But when they asked, they said, well, possibly 5. They said, hey, well, give us some names. They went in and tried to research to try to find people in the Amish community that had died from COVID. No deaths from COVID. These people didn't shut down. These people did not follow the CDC. They did not follow. They did everything the opposite of what we were being told to do. And guess what? They had the best outcomes. So again, that ought to wake us up and tell us where we need to start focusing. What's wrong with CDC? Are they bought off? Are they political? And we know they are. They're a political group, and our doctors have become political. And again, if we're looking, I don't know if you watch, Ryan, you watch much of what's the Democrat Kennedy? Have you seen much of him? Oh, Robert.
Yeah, I mean, I don't keep too close tabs on him, but yes, sir, familiar.
Well, this guy, if you want to hear something on vaccines, start listening to this guy. And they hate him. They hate him. I mean, the Democrat Party hates this guy. And that's what makes me love him a little bit. I'm like, hey, I'm digging this guy. But when you start listening to the results, and when he starts talking about autism and how you didn't see autism until you started having all of these vaccinations, and they're talking about it's not tied in. You're starting to see the allergies and all of these. I listened to him the other day on allergies and how now every kid has these severe allergies, and people have allergies where used to that was not the case. And again, he's tracking it back to a lot of the food, a lot of the pesticides, and a lot of the vaccines that we're seeing in today's society. So, and they won't shut him down. They have taken away all his platforms.
Absolutely, and we talk about that on the Patriot Party News Network, even on my show quite a bit, right? About those who got the vaccination because of forcefulness for their job, or to see a family member in the hospital, or just out of trusting the healthcare community and the WHO and the CDC and their doctor, and now realizing, okay, what I took could be potentially dangerous, and well, I need to get this out. How do I prepare myself to maintain wellness during the next round of whatever possible variant is going to come? And I'm already hearing that there's multiple new variants in multiple other countries, and I'm just waiting to hear which one makes it here first.
Well, that's the scary part. Again, when you want to talk about, I wrote when COVID first come out, I wrote an op-ed article about that. It was the origin was, and now we know. At that time we didn't know, and people thought I was far out, but we know the origin is a lab in Wuhan. We know that now. That's a given. We know that it was funded by the United States. We know that they were doing some really severe chemical changes to certain viruses. And again, these viruses were altered, and we know that they were genetically altered at a laboratory alteration. It gets out. Now, whether that got out on purpose or not, people can't say. I assume it probably did. But again, whether it got out on its own, but China quickly shut off all of China. You couldn't travel in China. You couldn't leave Wuhan. It was closed off. So no question, China knew that was out and was there. They allowed it to travel to happen to all the rest of the world, including the United States. They bought all of the medical supplies, the PPE and all of these things, the breathing devices and all of these apparatuses. They bought all that, helped it until we had them back on their heels. They're in a bad shape. This is what reset the whole thing. And again, that's a biological attack on the world, not just the United States. That's a biological attack done on purpose. And again, what we've seen is that they continue to attack us through fentanyl. We're being overrun at the border. Like you say, they're buying up all this. They flew over the balloon. I mean, just go on and on and on. This is a biological attack. And if you say something like that, and if you say, hey, they're going to have more, streams of this, people just act like you're crazy. It's not. I don't see how people haven't come to that conclusion on their own.
Yeah, I think more and more, not just Americans, but around the world, we're seeing, are coming to acceptance, if you will, that we were lied to, that this was not just a psyop, but I mean, a lot of people have lost their lives due to being forced to that vaccination. There's a long list on.
Hey, I've got many friends that I had two friends in law enforcement, and one of them, man, he was in pretty decent shape. I mean, to lose him was just unbelievable. And my other friend, he had a lot of medical problems. You could see it attacking him pretty quickly. But the other one was in pretty great shape. He's in his late 50s, I think 59-ish. Man, it's just hard to believe that, and again, what just makes me mad is that they would not treat. You had hydroxychloroquine. I got it. I would not sit still. I went and found me a person who would treat me, and that person they went after and tried to take their license. But and here's what's funny: that person I went to him did treat me with a cocktail of hydroxychloroquine and some other medications. But she also told me that COVID attacks sugar. And that's why it attacks overweight and diabetic people more than any other thing. And she said she wouldn't treat me unless I lost 36 pounds. Actually, she said 50. I managed to lose 36. But again, when I lost the 36, a lot of the health problems I had, which were diabetic and some cholesterol issues, guess what? Went away. So, she's treating, and again, what aggravates me is if we would come out with that, allowed that medication, how many people would have been saved? Why would the medical field act so irresponsibly with a drug that had been out there for 50 years, that had already been tested, already been proven? And again, the pharmacy stopped letting her. The pharmacy actually called her and said, why are you prescribing this? She said, that ain't none of y'all's business. I'm the doctor. You're the pharmacy. I prescribed it. You deliver it. And they said, nope, we're not going to deliver it. And she actually had a hydroxychloroquine rep sought her out and actually set her up to where she could get her patients that care. But again, I mean, had it not been for that guy, I wouldn't have been able to be treated. And so again, you want to talk about patriots. We don't think about a doctor just willing to do her job as a patriot. But to me, she's one of the biggest stand-up patriots, saved my life. And again, here's this pharmaceutical delivery. You don't think about a pharmaceutical delivery guy being a patriot, but guess what? He was willing to risk everything. He was willing to do his job for the public. And those are the type of people that, hey, are laying it all on the line and are fading some heat. I mean, they're catching some hell over it. And again, those are the people, man, I'm proud. I want to be one of those people. And that's the way I'm going to, as an elected official, I want to be one of those people. If I get ran off for doing what's right, then I'll just get ran off. If I get put in jail, I already got 2 bondsmen. I'm making a lot of people mad. I went out and got me 2 bondsmen on call in case the first one don't answer the phone. But people think I'm joking when I say that. Not joking. I mean, I've got 2 bondsmen, and I have had people call me up and say, hey, you're going to end up in jail if you keep pushing on some of these people. When you get up on public television, tell Prater, former DA Prater, hey, I'm going to be the guy trying to put you in jail because you are corrupt and you need to go to jail. guess what? You're pushing on some bad, you're pushing some buttons there. And again, but that's what we all have to do. We all have to start standing up and making people accountable.
Absolutely, JJ. We need more like you in every judiciary body across the country. We're out of time today. I would love to have you back in the future.
We'd love to come back.
And I think we could go for 3-4 more hours.
I can talk nonstop. So if you need somebody to talk, you let me know.
All right, brother. I look forward to it. Thank you very much for joining us today. That wraps up our episode, Pioneering Change. I'm your host, Farmer Ryan Early. Until next time, I'll continue searching the past to grow a brighter future for everyone.